Tacklas, karibuni sana kwa Tackle Edition Diaspora. We are here with my friends. I believe this is going to be a wonderful show today. Leo mambo ni kalikali kabisa. Hata Oswayo pia yote tutaweka ndani kila kitu. Lakini kabla tuanze, hebu tuende mbele ya Mwenyezi Mungu tuombe, alafu we start the show. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for yet another opportunity. As a people, we are coming together as we discuss matters pertaining our beloved country, Kenya. Can you guide may you guide our discussion? May we be able to enrich others, educate others, inform others, and above all, collaborate among ourselves to build a one country and show that we can come together for one purpose and one common purpose to develop and stabilize our country so that it can be what we dream it of it to be. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right. Friends, karibuni sana. Alfred, nakuona umefika hapa, karibu sana. Today we are honored. Namuona Professor ameingia hapa, namuona Bwana Big Ted yuko. Gentlemen, we don't have a lady today, unfortunately. Maybe watajoin baadaye. I want to start with something that really, personally, I want to acknowledge. And I pray that as a country, Kenya will get to that level. I'm talking about Senegal and their just concluded elections. Senegal had elections the other day, Monday. Ikaisha, kura zikahesabiwa, and a young man, 44 years of age, old, won the election, and everybody who was contesting considered and congratulated the president-elect, and it was done. I was so proud to be an African. I was so proud to see an African country actually conducting elections, and everybody was satisfied and okay. Yes, people were disappointed, but nobody alibebana na roli mzima ya evidence kwenda Supreme Court. People accepted this is it. Guys, can we get to that level? Alfred, wacha nikuweke ama Alfred amefreeze kidogo. Alfred.
Inafanya? Yes. So, thank you so much, Chairman.
Yes.
Unajua penye niko network ni kama ya Kaponjusma huko Nandi.
Umepeleka gavana wako huko pia?
Ni ngumu kabisa hapa, iko shida kidogo. So I'll be quick on that.
Yes.
Regarding the election in Senegal. First of all, I wish to thank the people of Senegal and who voted, because these men were voted in while they were still in prison. This was a revolution.
Yes.
Whose time had come.
Yes.
Because these guys were in prison. All the campaigns were done when they were still in
10 days
in custody.
Yes.
And 10 days after that, they are now president and a vice president elect.
Yes.
Kitu moja tu, Chairman, naomba tu, unajua the vice president anaitwa Sonko, na tuko na Sonko wetu hapa Nairobi.
Yeah.
Naomba tu siku ya inauguration Sonko aende on behalf of Kenya, so long as hataongea na aonyeshwe suti ataenda kuvaa huko. Bora asiongee, aanze kuchoma huko, aanze kusema maneno ya Nairobi na floods na baba na kila kitu. Anyway, coming back to the point.
Yes.
Coming back to the point is, like we discussed earlier, French came in with the policy of assimilation. They wanted to bring everything that is French or, French-like, and every culture and everything about them to all the colonies that they did colonize.
Yes.
And, for them, they wanted everything. You imagine at this day and age, people who were colonized by French, they don't have the autonomy of deciding how much they have in their account, what they need to do, and everything still comes from the headquarters, Uko Paris.
Yeah.
The monies that are meant to be in the government's account goes to Paris, and then now and you could decide sasa hii tunapatia nani na nani. And the good thing about the new president and the vice president, they said, look, we want to negotiate. We want these people to know that we also have the opportunity of us being able to govern ourselves. If they need something from us, it is us to decide how much we are giving them.
Yeah.
Because we need to move forward and keep going.
Yeah.
And I hope and believe that this will be, will be kept. The promise that the people of Senegal were told will be kept.
Yes.
Because Senegal is rich with all the minerals and the mining sites and everything. Yeah. And of course the youth and people, the number of people who are there who can offer labor is like Kenya. There is a lot and an extensive number.
Mm-hmm.
And as I sign off, Chairman, is that yes, Doro, the show is on. And again, Chairman, we always say, youthful leadership. In Kenya, we normally say youthful leadership. But when you see people who are going for these positions for the last few decades, are people who are 60 and above. Imagine Baba is still wanting to be president at 90. I think Kenya atakuwa president atakuwa 80 ngapi? Atakuwa 82 huko. Na sasa huyo ni mtu anataka kuwa president. Ona watu kina Kalonzo kina nani watu zaiwa kwa 70. Youthful leadership is this 40 and above. Wanaelewa shida yenye tunapitia and what we need to do and what and everything. At times we speak about experience, but these people that we have elected for many years, hatujawahi ona hiyo experience ikifanya. Imagine former president Moody Awori bado ni chairman mwenye anasimamia youths. Ako na position ya kusimamia vijana Kenya. Chairman. Anyway, wacha niachie kina professor pia wa breakdown.
Alfred, qualify your comment. Amesimamia youths wa gani bwana?
Yeah.
Qualify your comment. Sema amesimamia gani? Hapa hakuna mambo ya propaganda leo.
Yeah. Leo sema ukweli.
Amesimamia wapi?
We're the Big Ten.
He is the person in charge of the money that are allocated to the youths of Kenya. You go to go Google about that and check.
Bro, hapo.
He decides.
Hapana. But anyway, tuendelee, tutarudi tu hapo na wewe sahi macho kwa macho. Let me maybe say this.
Yes.
Let me just chime in. One of the things I think, as a person who's been in this space for quite a bit of time, one of the things that I think Kenya lacks, now we're starting to get a generation which is willing, but we lacked young people with the balls. Because you see, for you in Kenya, because we followed the party system, for you to go for an elective post, you must be in a party.
Yes.
Now, hakuna vile wewe utalala the whole year, utokee siku moja useme niko kwa hii chama nataka kiti. Na wale wamekuwa hapo wakifanya mambo. So, number one, for the young people to be part and parcel of leadership, they must take part in the democratic process which brings out the leadership. Yes. Waingie kwa machama, wanganganie ma positions, wanominatiwe, alafu watokee huko mbele wakuje kwa nini. Kenya bado hatujafika pahali ya kuingisha watu wa independent hapana. Lazima watu waingie kwa machama. Na lazima watu waingie kwa magroups. Sasa zingine unapata mtu anasema niko na supporters on Facebook, jamaa yuko na 100,000 people, lakini siku ya kura jamaa watu 10 ama watu 5 na half of them walikuwa walevi. So we must be able to carry the weight. If you say youth are the future, then the youth must take part in the democratic process. Nobody gives you anything. Leadership is taken. It is not given. Even this young president, this guy have you seen his pictures before he became president? Just Google. One every jamaa alikuwa ameparara bwana. There's no one believed that guy will make it.
Yeah.
But look at him now. Because he took part in a democratic process. And even maybe halfway they let him run because they thought we had a shida.
Yeah.
So the young people must take part in the democratic process if they want to be part and parcel of leadership. Hakuna kitu unapatiwa bure. Na I tell young people, usipojipanga wewe utapangwa wewe.
Okay. Haya. Doro karibu.
Saseni pole nimechelewa. I was in
Sasawa.
another meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. We are here, we are acknowledging the phenomena and the election in Senegal, how peaceful, how awesome it was. Kila mtu ameconcede, they have acknowledged the president-elect, and people are moving on.
Okay, that's very good. I mean, I wish Kenya would be anywhere close to that.
Yeah.
But sisi tuko na shida zetu. I see two people that I'm not used to here. I see Professor David. I see Big Ted Karibuni.
Yep.
And I don't know. I just walked into a conversation. I don't know what you guys were talking about, but oh well.
No, about the question was after seeing what has happened in Senegal, the question was, can Kenya get to that point where we do an election, people acknowledge the results, and we move on, instead ya kubebana na mabox kwenda Supreme Court?
Hey, well, wacha kuongea mbaya.
And I'm not saying that in a bad way, Doro. What I'm saying is, even now, if I'm not, there are people who are still in court petitioning election even now, in other positions. Watu bado wametoka lower courts all the way wanaendelea tu. To me is, can we get to a point where we conduct an election? Everybody, yes, losing is never a good thing and is tough. But at the same time, can I accept and say, hey, this thing was fair and square. I was beaten on my at the game. I need to up my game, move on. Let me go lick my wounds and wait for the next time. That is what I'm aspiring, and that's what I'm wishing for us to go, because we spend a lot of money being in court, petitioning elections, and then sometimes elections are reordered again, which is costing us more money that we should not actually be doing. Can we get that process whereby kila mtu anasema yenyewe kura imepigwa na mambo iko sawa, kila kitu ilikuwa haki, nilishindwa basi, wacha nenda nijipange tena? That's my question.
Arama, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So I really look at the Senegal elections with as a mixed bag. I'm not as euphoric as you are.
Yes.
And I'll start on a positive note.
Yes.
Peaceful democratic transitions of power are always a good thing, right? Yes. We're trying to increase the volume of countries around the world that that respect the rule of law, democratic institutions, and the rule of the will of the people.
Yes.
And we're even having that problem in this country with disinformation, misinformation, and January 6th, right? It seems America is regressing.
Yes.
Many so traditional democratic countries have been known to be backsliding. So that said, I'm glad to see this transition. However, Kenya is not as bad or in as grumpy a situation as you might portray, my brother.
Yes.
Let's not forget one thing.
Yeah.
Senegal is part of La Francophonie.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very big mental problem a lot of Francophone African countries have, where France is la mère, France is the mother.
Is the boss.
And France, mentally and economically, they're still under that colonial yoke till 2024.
Yes.
And I think you've been seeing this anti-French wave go through the Sahel, come through Gabon and Guinea. So they're really struggling.
Yeah.
They're where Anglophone Africa perceptually was in 1960. Kwame Nkrumah, Namadi Azikiwe, Jomo Kenyatta, they cut this umbilical cord psychologically in a different way. Then that colonial element is still very much present in Francophone Africa. So there's a psychological element where British colonialism was very different from the French. The British were very clear. You are the natives, we are the elites. The French had this myth of assimilation where if you learned their culture and their language, you could somehow become French.
Yeah.
And they governed their colonies like departments, like provinces of France. So my point is there's still a very serious colonial element still pervasive in Francophone Africa. And you'll see it even with the recent games, they call them La Francophonie. It's like the games of Francophone countries, which were held in DRC. And DRC didn't even have money to feed its own people, but it was spending millions on these colonial games. Very well. So there's a big problem there mentally.
Yes.
I think my other question is, and I think I agree with Big Ted in terms of this, being young and taking leadership young, good youth in politics doesn't always equate to good politics.
No.
You can be old, but still be a very good leader. And you can be very young and be a horrible leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Similarly, you could also be a criminal and be old, and a good leader and be young. But my point here is, youth is not synonymous with good leadership. And my concern with the Senegal, which is my second point, is that number one, remember, Diomaye Faye came from the tax background. These are tax collectors, the equivalent of our KRA.
Yes.
Sonko, the Senegal Sonko, his friend, the guy who was supposed to run for president, is also a former tax collector.
Yeah.
So these guys know they know the milking system in and out.
Yes.
And my concern with this transition is this: is Faye, number one, going to really follow what he's saying? In other words, is he gonna practice what he's preaching? He says is gonna stamp out corruption. He's saying he wants to remove Senegal from the CFA, which is gonna be a huge problem. I really want to see how he's gonna do that. Because France still controls the central banks of many Francophone countries, including Senegal.
Senegal, yes.
And as we know, Brother Arama, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Absolutely, yes.
Big Ted can talk very well here about transparency. Mr. can talk very well about transparency.
Yeah.
Doro can say, I'll be the best leader when I become the first female president of Kenya.
Yeah.
But when she gets to State House and gets in touch with those billions, she becomes a queen and she wants to terrorize the rest of us.
No, that's for sure. I'll be the best.
So that is my second concern, right?
Yes.
So how is this gentleman with a tax collector background going to react with the realities of political power? You know, you're not baking cookies.
No.
You're dealing with corrupt people, corrupt foreign governments.
Who are
sometimes you have to kill your enemies. I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying politicians have to do some very unethical things to maintain power. And I think the other issue related to that is, how is he going to deal with this, what I would see in the future as a huge problem, Joel, this competition between him as Faye and Sonko, who was really the person supposed to be running for this seat.
Yes.
He was locked up. Remember, huwezi kuwa na fahali wawili kwenye kiwanja. Lazima mmoja ataanguka. If you remember the history of Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, they both, after the revolution, Che Guevara had to leave or Castro was going to kill him.
Yeah.
So Che Guevara went abroad to start and continue revolution. You can't have two cocks in the same penthouse. So that's my second concern with Senegal. To what extent will Faye and Sonko be able to coexist? I think that will be a huge thing to watch, because very possibly in the future, Sonko may break off from Faye, the current president, and start his own political party, because Faye may not allow him to challenge his position. I think, lastly, I think my other observation with Senegal is, and maybe let me also end on a good note, is historically peaceful transitions are very important. The reason Kenya has been peaceful relative to our neighbors is we've gone to the brink, but we've always figured it out. We get to the precipice, but we always figure it out, right? Our elections are not perfect, but we've always figured out a way to avoid the precipice, as opposed to Southern Sudan, which has never had a peaceful transition of power. Look at Uganda, where Museveni is now putting his son to take over from him after all these years. He's changed when he got to power. Remember that youth? Young Museveni in 1986 said, I'm going to leave power. The problem with African presidents is they never leave power and they're corrupt.
Yep.
Look at what Museveni's turned Uganda into. Our neighbors in Tanzania, if we were able to live for 100 years from now, CCM will still be in power in Tanzania.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I find it very difficult. So my point is, historically, it's very important to have peaceful transitions. And I think this is where Kenya and Senegal are on the right track, right? We're really cultivating the right field in terms of democratic consolidation rather than democratic backsliding. But again, my big concern is how is FIRE going to renegotiate, number one, a move out of the CFA, right? Number two, how is he going to deal with this colonial mentality of La Francophonie? Because he might want to take the country somewhere else, but a majority of the people, their culture, their trade relation is still very tied to the nipples of France. They are still suckling from the mother. But thirdly, Arama, and then I'll stop here. How is he going to renegotiate mining contracts? This has been the big problem. These are huge corporate interests. These are capital-intensive industries controlled by very few elites.
Yes.
So the elites don't necessarily believe in democracy, right? And democracy in and of itself is not always a good thing, because you have to balance the will of the majority with the rights of the minority, who essentially control and dominate the economy. So I think Senegal is, I would push back on your overly rosy picture about Senegal, because there's those challenges. And don't forget, Arama, in 2012, remember they had President Wade.
Yes.
He went in for 2 terms, and remember he was trying to change the constitution to run for another one.
Yeah.
And even the former president, Macky Sall, remember, this was not such an easy transition. Macky Sall, Mise, wanted to delay the elections, so either he could extend his term or put a crooning into that office.
Yeah.
Hayo to Kaka Kiongozi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Haya. Bwana Mise, umeandika notes za kutosha?
Hamna, unajua saa zingine ukiwa na kiongozi wa lugha unajua unaanza kuingisha baridi
kidogo baba.
Sasa kwa hivyo lazima ujimudu ili uanze kuongea lugha mzuri. But for me, back to your question is that how and when will Kenya arise to the occasion of people conceding to the defeat when it comes to the presidential election?
Or election in general? Yeah,
I believe especially presidential election is where we have a bigger problem, and that sets precedents to other people.
Yes.
So for me, I think Baba is exiting. He has been the leader of these petitions, and he had mastered the art around petitions as a way or as a weapon to negotiate his way to power. So I believe that the fact that he's exiting to become someone else somewhere else, I believe this is a good sign. And I believe that as we are journeying to the next presidential election, we are not going to have kina Sifuna, kina Orengo wearing sufuria kwa barabara, causing property damage, loss of life, and so on without regard. So I am very optimistic that we are going to have an election where people are going to accept the election, because you have to know people around Baba and people around the opposition have positioned themselves in a way that they do business. Election in Kenya is a huge business. Lawyers, during that period, they make a lot of money, because that time we spend a lot of money from the parties and the government and so on, and we waste the country. We waste the country's precious time that we should be rolling into planning and rolling into election. Doro Kwampole, I had sent you a dedication that it's you makes me, when you're not there, I have lonely nights. So that should have been a good guest today as we get to this conversation. So
Moto.
So for me, that is going to be it's going to be the next election is going to be different, definitely, and the politics of party politics, where you must be belong or have allegiance to Baba or to William Ruto or to so and so for you to be nominated or get direct nominations, will cease to be, so that we can have to be elected for what we present to the people in terms of manifesto and so forth. Now, the other thing is youths in power or youths with power. It has been a big letdown. We have it's just like people from diaspora, where we have had people and we have thought that they are very exposed and they will go back home and bring these changes that they have themselves experienced abroad. But as soon as they arrive, they are compromised before they even get to the office. So I believe the same thing. And that's why I wanted to disagree with, I don't know if I wanted to disagree with Big Tate, that the problem that we have in Kenya is a problem that is similar to the problem that exists in Somalia. For a period of 20 or so years, Somalia has been a country, a failed state, whereby there was no education, there was a gap in between stability and so on. And so people who are within the bracket age of 20, 30 years, they have never known it better, other than, they have to be aggressive, fighting and so on. The same thing in Kenya. For very many years, youths have not been actively involved. There has not been a culture where youths have been empowered to arise to the occasion of leadership, to be able to know that they can also become better leaders without necessarily having to use backdoors or to be used to become weapons to ascend others to power. Now, the pandemic that we have about youths now in Kenya is a show-off that if you go to power, it is how many vehicles you're going to own. It is how many bodyguards are going to be around you, and how much you're going to spend, and what kind of image or fake life that you live. And we are dwelling there while the people that we consider to be elderly are taking wealth home, stealing from us when they're actually giving us kitu kidogo, and we are busy in the streets of social media to show off when we are supposed to be involved in governance. And lastly, I wanted to say that the election of Senegal is not as easy as the president of Senegal spoken very well, and he chose to speak English as opposed to French. And what you've heard, he has focused with telling French what he expects French to do. But I can tell you for sure that he is going to get challenges and he's going to become a target. Remember, anybody who attacks French has attacked these other countries indirectly. And this kind of arrangement that is there, we are soon going to label this guy. You will soon be heard that he's supporting terrorism. Just like Muammar Gaddafi was labeled, Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, and many other people who questioned the West of their role. And you can tell also that we need to arise to the occasion. Countries that have been colonized by the French. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda has to be extraordinarily different through Kagame, just dictatorship to make sure that things work. The assimilation policy was as calm, unlike the British who had indirect rule and so forth, methods of colonization that actually gave Africans an opportunity also to be involved in leadership and empowering them in transitioning. And so it became easier when the colonial masters left. It was easier for us to govern ourselves because we were not so much scammed like the assimilation policy. So let me stop there.
Okay.
Continue to contribute as we keep going.
Thank you. Doro, I've seen your hand. While I give you a chance to ask a question, there is something I just want to put out there and ask a question. Piggybacking on what Missy has said. Missy, you brought an issue that to me, like I told you, I always try to think on the believe personally that Raila, with his stature and his position, has actually been an outlet of pressure that could have become worse than what it is right now. Because we may assume Raila is gone or he's leaving, and therefore people are never going to go back to the streets. But supposing these people go back to the streets, instead of putting sufurias on their head, they come out with weapons and start killing people because they don't have the outlet to let out their anger and yell and shout and go to court and protest and petition and all that. So I don't want us to see somebody going to court because we are using the system we have as a bad thing. But also we need to look at the other end. This could get worse. And I don't want us to be in a position like, for example, Congo right now, where it's fighting every day. Every day. I have a friend from there. Sometimes he sends me video until I had to get to a point and say, listen, please don't send me this video because they are horrific. And I don't want to be watching these videos all the time. Doro, let me give you a chance to give a reply because I saw your hand up.
Asanteni. First, I want to address Mise here. Mise, you're the wrong person to even say anything about Baba. So you shouldn't. You shouldn't at all. Just keep it to yourself. Sisi kuna wenyewe. And we know that Baba is moving up to bigger and better things, and he was not able to make changes like he wanted to do, you know, especially when it comes to our electoral reforms. But those will be handled pole pole. And when you talk about that people are not going to go to the streets with sufurias on their heads because now Baba is not a factor anymore, remember that these people wanted to be on the streets even without Baba. They have made it very, very clear. So electoral reform needs to that needs to happen very soon in our country. That's what we should look up to. I have said this before that actually the IEBC should be made up of people who have lived and survived in the diaspora. Because when the IEBC is formed by people who are at home, sisi watu wenye tumeishi diaspora, kuna kaukweli fulani, you know, we live by the book sometimes, and it's very, very hard for us kuhongiwa ama kufanya.
Objection. Doro.
Wacha Doro amaliza alafu
objection Doro.
Ongea basi,
objection. Doro.
Yeah.
I have been here for 2 years. This is one of the most divided societies that you can ever qualify with, because you know very well we're divided amongst tribal, so it's still the tribal thing which will still come at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Among the Kenyans, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing which makes you guys survive here is there's a system.
Mm-hmm.
It is the system which makes us straight, not because we want to be straight. If guys here had a way, they would be crooked. So the problem is system. When we know GOPA, taxes are being filed end of this month.
Mm-hmm.
So while you can get a guy in prison somewhere to do for you those taxes, whatever, you will not do it because the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, back to you, Doro. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, Ted, I hope those 2 years zimekuchanua kidogo, because I've been here for 28 years, and what I'm saying is, I really don't care about the tribal aspect of us, the diasporans in the US. Sisi ni watu wenye tumeishi hapa, na it is going to be very, very hard for me to be back home, for someone to convince me nibadilishe kura za mtu to be something else, whereas it wasn't. That's the point I'm saying. Hii story za ukabila za hapa hizo zinaweza kaa kwa sababu we were tulitolewa nyumbani tukaletwa hapa tukarushwa hapa na ukabila yetu. That is going to somehow linger around. But when, yes, the correct thing you say there is systems. Yes, we have systems. Mm-hmm. We have mastered systems. So the government, our government back home right now, wako na kauoga fulani when it comes to even allowing us diasporans to run for office or be in the government. Instead of watufungulie mlango tuingie, we bring systems that work in our government. In the days of Moi and UK's dad, they used to allow people who have gone out wamesoma wanarudi ndani to bring their minds to run our country. Right now, being a diasporan is a disservice to our country because they look at you as a excuse my for lack of a better word, they look at us like pieces of SHIT. They look at us like sisi ni watu wa kupanguza wa mama. You know, that's and I've made this very, very clear to people back home. If you say I panguza wa mama, and you work in an office, you sit in an office. Sorry, I'm getting out of the point a little bit, but I'll get back. If you're sitting in an office that is paying you 20,000 shillings, and me, I'm panguza ring wa mama, and it's paying me $5,000 a month, then why do you bother and come and ask me for my money? Ya yenye nimepanguzia wa mama hiyo pesa chafu. Na wewe mwenye unalipo hiyo 20,000 shillings, as long as you're sitting in an office unataka uonekane, there's nothing you can do with 20,000 shillings. So kuna ile heshima we have to draw in the middle there. Watu wa diaspora tuheshimiwe. Big Ted, Mimi, I'm talking to you now. Rudi hapo, you have the mantle, you have the platform to speak for diasporans. You've been here, utuongelele kabisa, because I look at Dr. President Ruto. Nowadays, I address him by all his titles. Dr. President Ruto aliingia, akachaguliwa na kila kitu. Hold on, stop, Mr. Tukamchagua, tukafanya kila kitu. Ameingia uko ndani, and then he puts people like my friend Dia Jalango as a mtu mwenye amesimamia committee ya diaspora and affairs. What does Jalango know about being in the diaspora? And that is my dear friend I'm talking about. And then also, hakuna ofisi mtu wa diaspora amepatiwa directly. Hakuna kabisa. And that hurts. That really, really hurts. No PS, no CS, nothing for diasporans. How are we supposed to come back to our country and bring the systems that we have learned? Somebody like me, I have 28 years worth of systems in my head that I can actually even bring and change the healthcare world, because naogopa kuingia hosi when I'm in Kenya. But we are not given that chance. Hatutaki chochote. We're not asking for bribes. We're not asking for money to even come, and I will not ask for money if they ask me for 40 hours of my time to come there and just change some systems because of what I know personally. Those are the things we are looking for. Diasporans, we are atuko included kabisa, tumewachwa nje. Saizi tumeongezwa, tuna vote, but we are still thrown outside. Hiyo ndio hapo niko na shida. Niko na kashida.
Arama, kabla serikali iongee, kuna vitu Dora amesema hapa, and I completely disagree with Arama, with my dear and lovely Doro.
Keja anaongea lakini yako muted, so
yeah. So do you think about it? The people of diaspora have been given opportunities. Okay, talk about Alfred Mutua, for example. Alfred Mutua.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's you know, we always say that there's this entitlement diaspora have, which actually I find it twisted. I have heard people saying diaspora remit a lot of money to the country, and so we
It
should
is
be
true.
heard, and we should be given opportunities. Now, when you send money, you send back to your relatives. You don't send it to the government of Kenya, right?
That's true.
So, so that doesn't give you, just like those who are already in the country, they earn money and they spend it with their relatives, so they also contribute to the economy. So if we were sending, if today you ask me how much I've sent to the government of Kenya, it's zero. So now, that being said, we have leaders from diaspora who has let us down. One of them is Alfred Mutua, for instance. Okay, Alfred Mutua comes, for example, to Canada, gets to his girlfriend's house, he stays there, and then boom, voila, goes back to Kenya and says, I have spoken with the Ministry of, I had a great time with the Canadian government and we have created jobs. And then Canadian government fires back and says, treat those as rumors, you know? So that is one person who has lived and worked in the United States of America. That is a diaspora. He has that opportunity and that platform in the right docket to have brought the concerns that you have. Look at
that's a flower girl. Please don't even address him.
But he's diaspora. Yeah. So look at those people who have been given the opportunity. Now, the other thing is, Doro, you ought to understand that when I have gone to the ballot box, and my idea of how I wanted to bring changes was actually far from the reality. Mambo kwa ground ni tofauti, okay? Whereas you might have these good ideas on how to transform, you must be aware that the reception at the ground of your ideas and implementation and execution of what you want to do really matters. If the ground is not receptive, you will not be, and they don't understand your good policies, your good ideas, then they might be as good as nothing. So the other thing is that there's a very fundamental point. I think it's Big Ted who said that. I'll tell you, in 2017, there was an issue of Miguna. And I was the president of Kenyan community in Ontario. So the Kikuyus were telling me, you can't go. The Luos were telling me, Miguna is a Kenyan in Canada. And the other tribes were telling me, no, you can't go because this is not a political, issue.
Outfit.
So I was in between. But at the end of the day, I decided to go and say Miguna is a Kenyan in Ontario and one among which I represent. So I was there. Na nikachapwa sana. So what I'm saying, that those of us who should know better have not known it any better. There is something that Big Ted said, if given opportunity. Now I can tell you, look at Canada right now. Canada was a very quiet country. People never knew about it. It wasn't bad. It wasn't in any way in the streets there with a bad reputation. But right now, we had an influx of Kenyans who came to Canada. They are coming out and saying, na unajua tunaongeanga na lugha ya Kimombo. The secrets, siri zote, vile tunafanya vitu ambavyo sio halali ili kuingia kwa system. Tunaingia TikTok, tunaingia, like for example, tunatangaza huko. And then forgetting that there's intelligence, every nation has intelligence that will gather information on how they can also improve their policies. So the river road of Nairobi, now we have the river road of Canada here. Everything that you thought that is happening Nairobi in the streets, ina happen hapa. Unapata mtu anakuja hapa ana register shule na anaruka shule wakati amenini, anataka to take advantage of the system, forgetting system it will catch up with him. So sisi wa Kenya tuko na shida until sisi wenyewe tukubali, no matter where we are, even if you paint us white, tabia yetu ni hile until tukubali kubadilika.
Naomba niongee kidogo.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, a few things. Keja, how are you doing, my brother? Number one, So again, anything I say, I'm just saying it out of the innocence of wanting to understand the diaspora more and wanting to serve and to suggest better ways that the diaspora can be involved. One of the things that comes to my mind, and this is not an official government position, this is just me conversing, is the diaspora. We're having a problem getting data on the diaspora. For example, if we decide that we want people in Ontario to vote, can Mr. give me a database of each and every Kenyan in Ontario? Because we shall have to match a ballot paper to a person. The reason why you're brought for a ballot paper to your house is here in America, you can't add one ballot paper because it is matched to a person.
Yes.
But now in a state or in a place whereby the diaspora is largely divided and the diaspora does not trust government enough to give government its full contacts and details.
Yes.
I have worked in the consulate. I can tell you for free, some of the addresses people write for us in the embassy are fake. So we have a bunch of passports of guys who somebody writes a fake name.
Yeah.
Or somebody, I know some of you guys know very well. Kuna siku Nyayo House ulikuwa unaenda pale na 20,000 unapata passport.
Passport natoka.
And some of us in those early days had 2 passports. Ukienda American Embassy wa cancel hii, unakuja after 2 months umeweka ndevu na unakuja na passport ingine. There are those who came here to the diaspora, changed their names and changed their faces and gave themselves some English names, which the system does not recognize. So that is one thing which we must do. We must straighten out our data so that if we say we want the diaspora to vote, we know very well that there are 3,000 diasporans and they're in this particular area, so that hata mheshimiwa akikuja kucampaign, ana campaign wapi? When I came to America, I approached America with 5 things. I said, where do I get Kenyans? Kenyans are only found, number 1, in church. And the Kenyan churches are dwindling because the person who is coming as a diasporan is not wale wa zamani, guys are going to other churches, black churches, white churches, no church at all. I don't know who put those things, but they're behind me. And then number 2, I said, I will find Kenyans in weddings. So I attend a lot of weddings because I go there and find a guy tells you he's been there for 40 years. You're like, you've never been seen. He says, I don't need to come to the consulate. I'll never come. I go for funerals. Why? Because in funerals, you find a guy who knows the family over there. And then I go to parties because Wakenya wanapenda sherehe sana.
Yep. Yep, that's true.
Here in LA, we have a boys group. We're about 60 or 70. Some of those guys, they're not in any WhatsApp group. They're not anywhere, but we meet for Mbuzi. Like last Saturday, there was a Mbuzi. 60 of us showed up.
Yeah.
Now, you must understand the things that touch the pulse of Kenyans. Because if you understand the things that touch the pulse of Kenyans, then you're able to come in. The last thing is when babies are born, baby showers, and anything to do with kids. And right now, it is a big concern in the diaspora about how our 3rd generation kids are growing up. It is going into a big, big mess. And you'll remember this conversation very, very soon. 1, because the child you've raised is not Kenyan enough. Unamwambia we si useme hivi. Sema tiaho. Because I'm a Luya, you say tiaho. Ama ivinade. But the child cannot say ivinade. And then you laugh. So he's not Kenyan enough. But when he goes to the street, he's also not American enough. They tell him you're not all through like us. So that's 1. Number 2, let's go to politics. The problem with politics is that we have exalted politicians more than businessmen, teachers, nurses, lawyers, and any other profession. So politics in Kenya is actually a career of those probably who have done wrong or those who want to do wrong. And there's a saying which we say, do not judge someone's sin until you have enough money to afford it. Most of the sins that you see people doing is because they can afford it. You know, you're saying ati ule anapenda wanawake, wewe kwa sababu hauna pesa, siku ile utakuwa na pesa, hata wewe utapenda wanawake, ama utapenda maisha. That's on the side. The other thing is the thing about youth leadership. And I love what somebody said. It doesn't mean that if you're young, then you're a good leader. In fact, one of the biggest problems we have is power in an inexperienced hand. If you try and ride a motorbike, an 800 CBR or a motorbike, and you don't know how to control it, you will crash. That is number one. Number two, there has to be a system where you are taught how the system works. Unfortunately for us in Africa, and let me tell you guys, I think sometimes it is wrong, totally wrong and immoral to judge America and any Africa country. Do you know why? Because America is a 200-year democracy. 200 years. It means in these 200 years, they have tried, failed, tried, failed, tried, failed. So now what they're doing is 200 years. Now, you want us guys who we haven't even given guys all their rights. You want us to come and tell you, oh, this is how you shall live. Now, to finish part of my points, did we even ask the white man to make us into a country?
No.
We didn't. We were just nations who ruled each other. So we had Nabongo, he had his own Waluyas there, Kinakeja, in a corner. We had Luanda Magere, whoever used to be the Luo guy, leading us guys over here. We had Wango Makeri, Kalia, and you guys, Tarali, Joel, that side. Our Kisses never had anyone. They were just...
Hey, we had Sakawa. We had Sakawa.
Hey, we had Sakawa.
Hey.
Oh, Doro, you're my Mokoyone. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize, Doro.
Hey, we had Sakawa. Hey.
But it's not Sakawa, your person, eh?
No, Sakawa, my person is Sakawa, my person, but also Sakawa, the guy.
All of us had our own leaders and our own system of democracy.
Yes.
So we have just been cudgeled and combined together and told, Aya, Kwanzia Leo, you guys will be one country. Yeah. And that is why our politics in Africa will always pull according to your tribe, because that is your 200 years. Okay? Let me finish by saying this. And I say this with all the respect it deserves. It does not mean that because America or whichever country in the West says they are the leaders of democracy, that they are the most democratized nation. I mean, I came to LA, and let me tell you guys, I'm disappointed by what I've seen in America, because it was meant to look like we're coming to heaven. But when you get here, you actually find that these guys have the same struggles we're having. I live in LA in a good neighborhood. We've had a blackout. They call it a brownout.
Yeah.
There are potholes outside here. There's a big case going on right now in LA about cars busting their tires in potholes.
Yeah.
Crime is also very, very big. Dirty. This place is dirty like hell. But we never see these things propagated outside because of the system and the way they learn how to project. Let me finish by saying this. I pray to dear God that I get another opportunity to be able... Kenyans need to learn something called uzalendo. Wakenya si wazalendo unless we are winning or unless we are abusing another country. When we are abusing another country, like let's say Nigeria, Kenyans in the diaspora tutashikana, we can tukanana properly. Kenyans only come together during crisis.
I'm a TikTok.
Let me give you some statistics. Do you know how many bodies are sent to Kenya every year? Bodies, dead bodies.
From about 1,000?
No, that's too much. From the diaspora, we send 400 bodies every year. To send everybody home,
15,000 about.
No, but you haven't counted your air ticket. You haven't counted where you'll stay. So let's say 2.5, $25,000.
Yes.
But Kenyans have never and can never come together to purchase a community center or to invest in the ideas of the young people, third generation Kenyans here. Kenyans only come together during crisis. That is why during a funeral, tunachanga. During Harambe, tunachanga. During this, tunachanga. Or save money for Kenya, tunachanga. So those are the thoughts I have in my mind. We need a proper Uzalendo campaign. I wear these bands not because of but it's my way of showing my pride about Kenya. Like Kenya ndio iko na shida, but also it is mine. Ladies and gentlemen, I can see hands. Throw your hands up in the air. Wakisiwa wameinua mikono juu, wapatie waongee tafadhali.
Haya, wacha niende kwa Bob kwanza, alafu Keja. Bob.
Okay, good morning, good evening kwa kila mtu. And I want to say I've been following, and I think it's a great conversation going on. Now, I will start with the highlight of the week about the Senegal elections. And Professor said, and also I think also Big Ted has pointed out that being young is not necessarily it's not a good qualification that you will become a good leader or a better leader. But again, also being old doesn't portray that you can become a good leader or a better leader. And I think Professor Monda pointed it. I think it's just a good awakening that there's a new wave across Africa right now with leadership, whether it is euphoric or it is just the changing of times. And when you look at the way the Francophones have lately been behaving and trying to react towards the French, is that anybody who comes up with policies that will give Africans more independence in their thinking, more independence in how they operate and how they work, many West African countries are likely will be seen to kind of drift towards that particular leader. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that one. And I think also it was also a protest vote that came from the Senegalese after the president wanted to extend their term. And in a democracy like Senegal and Kenya, it always happens that there will always be a revolt. It is the same thing that happened in Kenya in 2002. And when I look at it, Senegal is in Kenya 2002 right now in terms of democracy, because whatever happened was the same protest that Kenyans had during that particular point. Keja, weka mikono chini. Najua Waluya mkono ugali. So I think it's just a protest vote that the Senegalese were giving to I mean, we're just trying to show. And secondly, there are so many great things that have been discussed about the Kenyan diaspora, and some of these things that we always talk about them. And I want to agree with Mise that one of the things that is killing us sometimes is we kind of have an entitlement mentality, as the diasporans, that lazima tusikizwe. It is true, it's good that they must listen to us, but do we listen to others? Do we give them a positive criticism, or we just want to point fingers and tell them of where we are is better than where we came from? And of course, each and every day it is work in progress. I mean, our constitution is barely 20 years old. I mean, it's still a young constitution that is still metamorphosizing to become a document that we would want to be. And sometimes we look at this glass as half full. I mean, it's half empty, but we forget that Kenya's had tremendous progress in its growth, in its development, in terms of the economy, the social welfare, and I think things are working out. They might be slow, but they are working out anyway. So I think as Mrs. said, we are so entitled as Kenyans, and I mean as diasporans, that everything must pass through us, so that to just kupata hiyo recognition, which sidhani ni necessary sana. Kila kitu itafanyika kwa wakati wake. Yeah, I think it's high time pia sisi watu wa diaspora tuanze kuiangalia from that, pia tuanze kuiangalia okay, nchi ni nini, usifanyia nini nchi apart from kupeana pesa na ku criticize gava na vitu kama hizo. What else can we do to keep growing our government?
Give me 10 seconds, please. 10 seconds.
Okay.
Please. Okay. I have to respond to Bob Kidogo. Hii story unasema as diasporans we have this entitlement. You and me say, I'm missing you guys somewhere there. Tuko na entitlement ati tunataka tusikizwe. Tushasikizwa siku gani? Tumesikizwa siku gani, honestly? When have we even been given the mantle to even just provide free information that would help our country? I don't remember the last. Actually, putting together the time I spent in Botswana, I'll call
Doro,
it
let me ask you a
30
question,
years.
Doro, let me throw the same thing back to you, Doro. Many a times, especially kwa hii serikali, sitaongelea mbeleni, kwa hii serikali, kumekuwa na some public participation where inafanywa na serikali kutoka Kenya. And I think Big Ted played a big role kwa public participation on some policies zenye ina affect diaspora na pia Kenya. Kidogo tu.
Kivyake na amesaidia.
Doro, wacha niseme kinitaka niseme alafu utanijibu. Mimi na wewe tunaelewana. Keja, ukiuliza swali tutakujibu.
Serikali ikiongea Keja nyamaza.
Kumekuwa na public participation zenye zimekuwa zikitendeka. Na nakumbuka the last time tulikuwa na mkutano kubwa wote, there was issue ya taxes yenye tulikuwa we were to write a petition na tuka agree that tutafanya wote. Did we make the progress ama tulimalizia kwa discussions kwa group? You know, those are some of the things tunaongea, but most of our discussions huwa ni informal. You know, ikifika kwa mambo ya policy, have we written na tukapeana hata kwa consulate? Tulikuwa na advantage moja, tulikuwa na Big Ted who was very very close to us as a group, that okay, Big Ted, we have this document, tukumanishia kwa email yako, make sure umepeana. So saa zingine tunajiambia tumeongea, but the way government inoperate tu kwa kuongea peke yake, lazima tuweke vitu chini. Na tukianza kuongea na kuweka kila kitu chini, then tutakuwa tuna make a lot of sense.
Can I changia one thing?
Yes.
Two things. Just I want to throw it in.
Keja serikali inaongea bwana. Keja serikali inaongea nyamaza.
Keja, I want to you
government is talking.
I want to throw a challenge to us.
Sawa. Endelea basi. Let me
Keja,
walk
you are
out.
doing after me.
Yeah, let me walk.
I want to throw a challenge to us. And my challenge is this: number one, if there is one of the reasons why the diaspora has not been heavily involved or thought about in government is, number one, remember the Constitution did not support that. Number two, we have never had what we call a diaspora policy. Government work with policy. Policy simply means, kama we want to do something tomorrow, there has to be a document that supersedes people that it can be effected. There was no policy. The policy is actually out right now.
Yeah.
So please go and look for the policy so that you can be aware of what the policy says and how we want to engage with you. Let me give, somebody said, oh, why can't the diaspora, we want one MP to come from the diaspora. I don't know if any of you was in the meeting we tried to do with the president last year, but one in DC.
I was in the one that was preparing for that meeting, and I gave up.
Were you there? Were you the one the guys abused each other thoroughly?
I kept quiet. I walked out because it was too much.
And the guys abusing each other are professors and doctors and eminent personalities.
Yes.
So what do you expect of their children? It means they have just simply extended that whole aspect. So it doesn't mean, it is simple. You can take somebody out of the village, but you can't take the village out of that person. Finally, if we say we want to elect an MP, can somebody please tell me how they think that drama will ensure? I know the people in Minnesota will vote for one guy. The people in Anaheim, in Seattle will vote for one guy.
Yeah.
The people in Riverside, California will vote, and Phoenix, Arizona will vote for one guy.
Yeah.
So we're in agreement on that. It's me.
I think there is a step.
No.
We're in agreement on that.
There's a step. There's a step which we must take. And back to the old thing.
Yes.
This my phone is before I go into the room to charge.
Yeah.
But remember, being old doesn't mean you're wise. Even fools grow old.
Yes.
Right? Keja.
Yes.
Yeah, Sama Niko.
Keja is your turn now.
Yes.
Ndio mwenyekiti, mkono wangu uko juu, nipatie muda pia.
Wacha tupe Keja nafasi alafu professor next.
What is going on? Huh?
Haya, sawa. Keja.
Yeah, what he's saying, we have to, us as diasporans, we have to figure out ourselves. We are always pointing out to Kenyans and seeing what is going on. And at this point, we have to look for our points. What our points are. Yeah, si kama tunaenda kushika. Every time we are going to the news, we are pointing negative stuff. But what are we doing to change? What is the positive stuff we are talking about? You know, what is the strength are we building? What are we doing to build this diaspora movement? Some of us, we have been here for so many years, but there's no way, there's nothing that we showed. Sisi tunaendaga tunafanya nini? Tunawachapa kiboko na tunafanya nini? Tunajenga nyumba. Alafu tunaenda tunarudi huko. Tunafanya nini? Tunaenda tukichapa campaign ni ngumu. So it's about time we have to start building our own. Let us fight amongst ourselves, so that we do not go there individually. We go there as diasporans. So we have a problem of coming up together because we are the ones who are comfortable to come up together. So we have to think of us, because we are the ones who are really supplying. We are really supplying the country, and we have to come and build it up so that the country can go up. Yes, because most of us from America, we are comfortable beating down the down people. And we have to stop doing that. We really have to stop doing that, and we have to just take control. Figure out of where our weaknesses are as diasporans, whichever way, and come up together, because there is no way we are doing 3 billion home and we don't have a company. We don't have a company and we send 3 billion a year.
Which company? if we may be enlightened, which company are we expecting?
We have to figure out ourselves instead of kupigana, kuchapa, unasema, oh, huyu nani. But we are sending that kind of money. Munatumanga
wacha nipe professor nafasi after Keja.
Keja amekunywa ile chai last week.
Asante kunipatia muda wa kuchangia ndugu mwenyekiti. Mimi ningependa kutoa maoni kadha wa kadha. La kwanza ni kwamba kwake balozi Big Ted, sijui kama unaufahamu ule utafiti ambao ulifanywa na Professor Kefa Utiso. Alituma maoni ya wakufunzi wahadhiri hapa Marekani kupitia kikundi cha KESA, yani Kenya Student Scholars Association. Utafiti huu ulifanywa miaka 3 nafikiria iliyopita, ya kujaribu kudadisi, kutafakari na kuhabarisha balozi penye Wakenya wako. Na mswada huu sifikiri umeendelezwa, ni kama imekuwa ni jitihada butu. Manake utafiti huo ulifanywa, maamuzi yalipelekwa kwa balozi Amayo, lakini sijasikia yaliyojiri kutoka hapo. La pili, nikiangazia jamii hii ya Wasenegal, vile niliashiria, niliwaonyesha jamii ya Wakenya. Tulifanya utafiti kama Wakenya mwaka jana, tukaandika hiki kitabu, kimechapishwa na Lexington Publishers. Tulikiandika mimi, mchango wangu ulikuwa na ile jamii ya Wasenegal hapa New York. Kuna kitengo kinaitwa Little Senegal hapa Harlem. Pia tukiashiria, najua Big Ted umeenda kule Fairfax kule LA. Kuna jamii ya Waethiopia pia wamejijenga tena kule Little Ethiopia kule LA. Lakini nikirejelea hapa kwa Senegal hapa New York, wengi wao unajua wamefanya yani wamejipanga vizuri sana. Sijui pengine ni dini ya Kiislamu imewasaidia, ndugu mwenyekiti Arama. Manake kwao unapata wana diaspora kama wanavyotoka huku, yani wana vitengo vyao kwenye miji hii mingi ya ugaibuni. Yani wa Senegal wale wako Hong Kong, wa Senegal wale wako London, wa Senegal wale wako Paris, wengine wako LA, wengine wako hapa New York. Na cha kushangaza ni kwamba wakija huku sana sana hawataki kuingia na kupata PhD ama kupata master. Hao wanataka tu biashara. Wanafanya biashara. Na sisemi masomo sio kitu sio kitu, ni kitu kibaya. Lakini nafikiria wakati mwingine kama Wakenya tunaangazia sana kitabu na tunataka kuajiriwa tukimaliza, na tunataka kazi ya ofisi. Lakini hawa Senegal, ndugu Arama, ukiwachunguza, mtu hata kama ni kazi ya kuuza ngoma, kazi ya kuuza nguo, kazi ya kuuza zile mafuta zao shea butter, ataifanya. Na jamaa anatoa container kutoka nyumbani. Anatoa container kutoka Senegal, container karibu 5. Yeye kwa mwaka anachapa zaidi ya $200,000, 200,000. Na zote anaziweka tu polepole, anazitumia, anazirudisha nyumbani. Alafu baadaye akistaafu anarudi. Kwa hivyo wazo langu ni hili. Mwelekeo wao pia wa kufikiria kazi, sio ile kufikiria kazi lazima niende chuo kikuu, niende Columbia, niende UCLA, niende chuo kikuu cha Chicago na niajiriwe. Pia wanapanua akili zao. Wanapanua akili zao kutafakari mbinu za kujiajiri. Na wanatumia pia misikiti yao kujihami kiutamaduni na kujihami pia kibiashara. kwa mfano nikiangazia kwa mfano na Wakenya, ingekuwa tuseme kwa mfano pastor anatoka Kenya na akija kwa jamii ya Wakenya hapa wanampatia mchango, akienda jamii ya Wakenya LA wanampatia mchango, akienda jamii wa kule Chicago, kule London, kule Paris, alafu hizi ada wanazomtolea anaenda kwa msikiti Dakar, ndio mchango itaenda kusaidia umma kule, kuanzisha biashara kule. Kwa hiyo alafu Msenegal akitoka Dakar akija ng'ambo hana shida kusema nitatafuta nani anisaidie. Ataenda kwa wanawaita marabu, imam. Ataenda kwa imam kule Dakar aseme naende Senegal. Kuna jamii wa Senegal pale wanaweza kunisaidia. Kuna jamii ya wa Senegal LA wanaweza kunisaidia. Alafu wakija kama wengi hawana makaratasi, sio? Ama wana ile visa ya muda, miezi 2, miezi 6. Watasaidiana. Imam atamwambia kuna huyu dada anatafuta mume, ama atakuoa, upate makaratasi yako, muweze kusaidiana. Yani kama jamii hivyo. Nafikiria kwa nafsi hiyo pia ni kama lazima tuwaige. La kumalizia hapa, ndugu mwenyekiti, ni kwamba Balozi Ted, kweli umeangazia kwamba Wakenya sisi sio wazalendo. Lakini najua pia utakubali Kenya ndiyo iliyotuasi. Sisi hatukuasi Kenya. Kenya ndiyo ilituasi. Wengi wetu tungependa kuwa tunachangia Kenya wakati huu. Tunafundisha wa Kenya. Tunafanya biashara Kenya. Lakini Kenya ndiyo ilitusaliti. Inasema wewe unatoka sehemu fulani, wewe hauna shares. Wewe hauna hisa kwa serikali kwa sababu haukutupigia kura. Sasa jamani, ni kiongozi wa kitengo cha juu anaambia Wakenya wenzake, wewe ukiwa kabila fulani haukupigia serikali kura, wewe hauna hisa kwa serikali. Kwa hiyo pia Balozi Ted, lazima ukumbuke Wakenya wamepitia mengi. Enzi zingine wengine alikuwa akiwawa, wanafurushwa nje. Hata Ngugi, tunaenda kumshuhudia Ngugi mwezi wa 6, kumunga mkono, amekuwa mkongwe. Ngugi alifurushwa, alikuwa anaenda kuwawa. Kwa hivyo kweli sisi wakati mwingine sio wazalendo, lakini pia ni Kenya imetusaliti. Alafu kumalizia, kaka mwenyekiti, lazima nimalizie kwa swala hili. Lazima pia tukubali kama Wakenya tuna utamaduni wa kitu kidogo. Mimi nina utamaduni huo, wewe Arama una utamaduni huo. Tusianze kudanganyana. Hiki ni fikra za utamaduni ulioenea na uko kwenye damu yetu. Kwa hivyo mimi nikienda Kenya, nikiwa napeleka gari yangu, polisi amenisimamisha, gari haina shida. Polisi ananisumbua, anatafuta shida kwa gari langu. Mimi ndazozana na yeye pale, nipoteze siku 2 nikiwa jela, ama nimpatie 100. Nikiwa rais, Arama, ukiwa rais wewe, hata mama yako atakasirika, haujaajiri ndugu yake yule anasukuma mkokoteni. Ukitoka pale baada ya miaka 5 kama hujaajiri watu kutoka jamii yako, ni kama watu watasema wewe ni mpumbavu, na hata Wakenya wengine watasema Arama ni mpumbavu. Kwa hiyo kweli siwezi kuishutumu, niseme ni kitu kizuri, lakini pia lazima tuangazie, tuseme pia ni desturi, ni mfumo ambao itachukua muda tuweze kujiendeleza pale. Asante kaka.
Haya, asante. I hope kila mtu, anybody got a chance kusoma hii Kenya Diaspora Policy 2024?
Sijapata nafasi, lakini bwana mwenyekiti, kama ungeniruhusu kidogo.
Iko wapi?
Iko kwa WhatsApp group. Professor Monda alipost last week.
Okay. Sawa.
Hata linki nimeweka kwenye chat. Nimeweka kwenye chat. Linki nimeweka pale dada.
Sawa, asante.
Kuna hoja ambazo bwana profesa ametajia, but kabla sijasahau nilikuwa napenda kuchangia kwambia dadangu Doro kwamba kama the most progressive electoral body is IBC. Okay? Sijui akizungumzia mambo ya electoral reforms, if you look at Elections Act 2011 as revised 2012, Elections Act 2016 as revised 2017, there has been progress and provisions within the Elections Act that actually that was geared towards improving, the way elections are conducted. So there has been progress that significantly might have not favored our candidates, and that's why sometimes we feel that there has not been electoral reforms. The very same people who have been championing for electoral reforms have been championing with anticipation that it will work in their favor. Unfortunately, the smartest of all will carry the day. But most importantly, I wanted to say something that Big Ted mentioned. We are not united at all. I attended a lot of UDA meetings during 2022 campaign, especially Diaspora. There was a wave, lazima tungekuwa tunaingia mikutano one after the other. And there was, and what actually made His Excellency stand out was that he could attend those meetings, whereas the Right Honorable Odinga never attended, to get that connection with the people that he was anticipating to be their leader. So I saw some things. Kenyans, one thing, whenever the president would come, whenever the president purposed to attend those meetings, hata wale wenye, I remember Canada was actually narrowed to become a state of the US, whereas we are a sovereign state, a sovereign country. So that is how Kenyans are. They are ambitious and aggressive. We are self-centered. It is either me or Monda, or Monda, I'll step on your head as long as I get what I want. So there's not that unit of purpose as diaspora, and therefore we have no reason to complain because we have not been exemplary to be unified in presenting our issues as a unit that actually, as you say, contribute or remit a lot of income to the country. If we were speaking from one voice, Keja, we would have
no, do not bring this.
We would have
whatever.
Keja, you will have your moment.
We are listening as diasporans.
Yeah, I mean, diaspora, we have failed. That's
what it's saying.
And that is something that we need to reflect on ourselves and say, where have we failed? In any policy, there is a place where you have to reflect and do an evaluation where you didn't do well and make some changes, and Professor can speak more to that. Now,
give me 2 seconds before Ted speaks. Diasporans, we have not failed. We have tumejidharau.
Dora have not finished. So the other thing, you have made allegations that you have not been given a chance. We've had governors or deputy governors who have actually been elected or given a chance, and yet they come back to the US, yet they are earning salary, and MCAs, they go back to the people they are elected, and they come back to live in the United States when they are supposed to serve people back home. So that is a letdown to the people who have given you the opportunity to serve them. And then in terms of data, Big Ted, in terms of data, you have to understand some dynamics. The dynamics here, Kenyans come to these countries differently. We have undocumented people. We have people who seek asylum here. and therefore might have no association with the high commissions, because the high commissions represent the interests of the government and diplomatic relationship between the two between the countries. Now, you can also agree with me that the high commissions have not been very keen in making or developing, having a good relationship with the people who exist here, largely because they have no understanding of the challenges of the diaspora, because a high commissioner or an ambassador is appointed for either 4 years, a term of 4 years or 3 years or whatever years, and comes here. By the time he's learning, adjusting the climate, the weather, the culture, the years are gone, whereas Doro has been living here 28 years. And that's why, as diaspora feel we are sidelined, we should have an ambassador elected from within this country who understands the challenge and the systems, so that when he's addressing and dealing with the people, he understands the culture and the systems of that area. So in terms of collecting data, the high commissions have not developed trust for Kenyans to open up and give voluntarily the data they want. And by the way, we fly through JKIA and through the immigration. Doesn't immigration have data of how many people who have flown to Canada and their names and their passport numbers? Why would you want us to give you the information that already exists in the government data with registrar of persons and immigration that you already have? And lastly, I want to tell you that in terms of, I've been involved in community leadership, and I've seen that sometimes people are very reluctant. Let's say, for example, an immigration officer wants, we have a Kenyan who is facing deportation, and this Kenyan doesn't have, or the passport has expired. I know you have a diplomatic obligation to facilitate either travel document or renew the passport, or this person doesn't have a passport. And we as community leaders have been trying to engage the high commissioners, and they have not been very key or forthcoming in developing a relationship on how we can address challenges of Kenyans who are undergoing certain challenges here that the people who come here within a short period do not understand. So if you want data, at JKIA, you do have all the data that you want, the people who are out of the country, the people who come in the country, because we are controlled on one central port of entry and the exit that is based, immigration that is based at the airport. What other information or data do you want, Balozi, that is not within your not at your disposal?
All right, Doro, 20 seconds, and then I'll let Big Ted to respond to that. Ama idea ilipotea.
Nico. Sorry, I was talking to myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I was saying I was going to use my 20 seconds very wisely. Mm-hmm. First of all, since we have Balozi sitting here, I just want to let him know that we are very, very aware. As much as, yes, we have complaints, but we are very, very aware with his style that he brought into this office. He came with his own personal style that was more of trying to find people, reaching people, and doing the best. And I think that's the first time we've actually seen somebody from that office reaching out and finding people and going out there. We've not been seeing these people. Sorry, I'm talking about your colleagues. So I hope whoever made the mistake of trying to either reshuffle you or doing something really needs to think and find an opinion from us. I know, sorry. But we need someone who is working for us and make that office accessible, because I'm right now I'm hearing that those people who don't want to be seen close to that office for reasons best known to them. So that place needs to be user-friendly, and we need several Big Teds to make that happen. Asante sana kwa kazi yako, and I hope uendelee kutufanyia kazi. So one other thing I wanted to say is this thing that Mrs. said, remittance. I know my 20 seconds are over. Hii mnasema ati the remittance in Kenya is going to our family members and whatever we're doing. Now, Missy, you're not talking like a lawyer. You're disappointing me. You're talking like a layman. So when we send money to go to Kenya, whether it's going to my family or whatever it's doing, it's helping the economy of Kenya. Na bado mimi niko na ile idea nilisema just 1 month peke yake, no diasporan should send money home. Diaspora from here, Qatar, everywhere. Ndio Kenya waone kama watatuinamia na watatuinamia. So it is true, the money we send back home is running the economy, and there's nothing, you can't take anything away from that. Thank you for adding me 40 more seconds.
All right, thank you so much. Victor, before you respond, give your answer, I think for me, there is something that I just wanted to raise fundamentally with Kenyans. One of the things that becomes a challenge, for example, I remember the last meeting I attended with Ambassador Mayo, the issue about passports and IDs came up. And one of the questions we were asking, for example, is now for me to get a passport, I need to do generation. I'm required to go to the embassy, which for me will be DC, to get my fingerprints taken and all the paperwork. That will be about 2 or 3 days for me to be there, to at least 2 days, and then come back. But then unfortunately, when I apply for the passport, I'm required again to go back and do the same fingerprints again. So the question comes up, what happens to the first fingerprints? Are you not using the same database? I think some of these things is making it easier. And we made a recommendation and we said, we told the ambassador then, for example, we do have companies that are contracted by the US government to take fingerprints for people wherever you are. You know, I would rather pay $50 to drive 20 minutes or to drive 10 minutes or to drive an hour where somebody can go take my fingerprints and then is sent to the Kenyan embassy than me flying to DC, spending $500 plus hotel, plus food, and plus I've lost 2 days of work. That's a lot of money. So our recommendation was, why don't you subcontract when it comes to fingerprinting with reputable known agencies or organizations here in the US that can actually do the fingerprints on behalf of the Kenyan government? All you have to do is provide them the form. You know, they print it out. I go take my fingerprints, then they fill it out, everything with any documentation that is required. They take copies, attach it, and then send it in. That way you'll be saving more time than people, all of us flying in. And sometimes when you get there, you are not treated in the nice way. Now, coming to Mrs. issue about the ambassador not be here long. The one secret I know for sure, for example, the US government, ambassador change every 4 years unless a president is re-elected. When a new president comes, majority of the embassies, they replace ambassadors. But the people who always remain are the embassy staff, because those are the people who actually run the embassy. They know what is going on there. They're in touch with the local people. They're in touch with the issues locally. They're in touch with the citizens in the country. I think, to me, in as much as you want to change the hierarchy of the embassy staff, which is the ambassador, maybe the deputy commissioner or the affairs or whatever title they are given, but the overall staff does not need to be changed every 4 years. That's where we are losing it, and that's where we are always lagging behind, facing a lot of challenges. That's my comment. Kwaka Bonaten.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Dorothy for the accolades. I was challenged today to not to sit ground, not to have false humility and pretend that.
I'm sorry, I was quiet for a minute. We'll have to give this man, Bona Chairman, he's the one who's going to close out today.
Yes.
Yeah, I've had what Olive had. Yeah, from the time Big Ted came here, I can tell you personally, He pushed me to another level. He made me think different. And I was in America. I remember the first time I got here is like, KG, what do you know? That will show you better. And he made sure he did.
Yeah.
Me personally, and I can tell it in public. And he took me to another level and he told me, KG, I think you can do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sisi tunafanyanga nini US, tunapiga job, tunatuma pesa. Tunapiga job, tunatuma pesa. Tunapiga job. It might be different. And that's why I appreciate this guy.
All right.
Like this cycle, you people have to stop living it. Akakuja kaniambia, hebu kuja nikuoneshe hapa. Yes, he's opened up for me some doors I don't think I would have ever walked into.
That's good to hear.
And that's when I'm celebrating this man. Yeah, he's opened, like he was the first ambassador. Hata kama uko na pesa, even if you're homeless, he was there. He's like, let me get you to work. Wacha nikusaidie. Open.
Thank you.
Kaka mwenyekiti, naweza changia haraka upesi dakika mbili tafadhali.
Wacha tupe Ted, alafu I'll come to everyone to give your final remarks. Let him respond to some things that were raised.
Yeah. So number one, so this is the simple truth. Number one is for there to be an ambassador, designate ambassador appointed from the diaspora, it will need some policy changes in government, or some pronunciations by government on that particular matter. Because you remember in the past, you people who came to the diaspora, especially people like Doro who've been here for 26 years, you know very well when you left Kenya, tulikuchangia pesa, tukakupatia pesa, tukakuambia hii ni ya kalamu, ukaambiwa enda na urudi. So the initial idea of the diaspora was never that you guys will come and stay. So nobody built any facility, any policy around it that you guys will stay here. And you can see that in the way even some of your relatives behave. Hey, ula lipotea huko ngambo. Hey, ula lienda huko, ula lifanya hivi. But right now, with the new way of the world, we are realizing that you can actually be a diasporan, but still belong to your country. So it is still a walk that we are taking. Number two, wacha nimsemeshe Professor Daudi kidogo. Prof, I don't think I know of any country whose diaspora has been strong and cooperative who were not brought together by crisis. The reasons those communities are that tight is because they have learned to depend on each other. Wasomali hawana inchi, tuseme tu ukweli. But hauwezi tuanisha Msomali wa Kenya na Wasomali. Problem ya wa Kenya ni hatujawahi kuwa na shida that needs me to depend on Joel. That Joel is the only thing. When in Kenya, nakufa na wewe. Hakuna. The only time we do that is when Kenya is playing a rugby match, Kenya Sevens, and we go sit together in one stand. But immediately after, Wakisii wataenda kwa party ya mtu huko, Wakikuyu waende kwa party nyingine Mugithi huko, Wajaluo wabaki huko wakitafuta wazungu ndani ya crowd. But you never have that thing of people coming together. And I think it's our socialization as it is. Let me talk to Doro. Doro, I sort of agree with what Musa said about the remittances. And when we say that the remittance which is sent to Kenya, you never send it to government. This is what we are saying. The day we develop something called a diaspora bond, which we'll need, and we say we want to build the road from Westlands to Rironi, we need $10 billion. And we turn to the diaspora and tell the diaspora, we need you guys to bring ile pesa mmeficha kwa mattress, nini. Since we shall still, either we borrow from China at 10% or we borrow from you at 10%. And then the diaspora comes and says, borrow from us at 10%, ndio hii pesa tumieni. It's the same propaganda we're having right now about the low housing project. Let me assure you guys something. If you don't get those houses when they are put out in the market, your politician, yours, will get those houses, alafu watawauzia. Jiulize, how come all these politicians have houses in all the vitongojis in this country? Walipata aje? Because mwananchi hakujizatiti kujituma hapo. But let's go back to the issue of diaspora remittance. Doro, the day you say we don't send money to Kenya for 1 month, I hope you have the statistics for money remittance in Kenya. Most money is sent first of all to mothers, and then it is sent to sisters, and then sent to brothers, and then sent to mzee. Mzee anakuanga huko chini na saa zingine hata hawapokei kitu. You can tell it even you yourself, that's what you do. That's the order you use. Number 2, most of the money is sent by women in the diaspora who send it home. Number 3, the money which is sent to Kenya is usually used for social issues. Mm-hmm. Medical is number 1. Funeral. Stima, maji. Mm-hmm. It's very a small amount of money ambayo inatumwa ya sherehe. So immediately you say you shall not send money to Kenya for 1 month, wewe umemaliza mama yako, umemaliza
No, big amount ni ya sherehe lakini ya kujenga na
Doro,
Big Tech, give me 10 seconds of your time. 10 seconds of your time.
Those guys, the ones you have mentioned are part of the social amenities I'm talking about.
Yeah.
but let me say this.
Yeah.
That I think at some point a generation has to arise that looks beyond tribe. And that is why your 3rd generation children cannot identify as Luo, Luya, Kikuyu, or whatever. I'm in Seattle a lot. I'm actually going there on Friday. And the kids hang out together like they don't care because they can't speak the language, and you can't inculcate in them the tribal hatred that us guys grew up with. Mm-hmm. You know? So a generation will arise which will break this tribal thing. But for right now, as it is, even back on the ground, that tribal factor would still play on.
Yeah.
I finish by saying this. Me, I'm very optimistic. Number 1, I say this with all respect due. Number 1, diaspora waache kwa kichwa ngumu bana. You are not better because you're in the diaspora. And I think this propagation of we are in America, so we are. I mean, let's be honest. Mise here has no say amongst us. As we're in America, he's in Canada. He's in the number 3 country. Mm-hmm. What about a guy who's in Pakistan? We don't even consider them as part of the diaspora. A guy in Uganda is in diaspora. Then Kisumu.
Yeah.
So we have taken ourselves as if we're the solution to everything in the world. Again, I insist. The only thing keeping some of us straight in this country is the system. Mm-hmm. And I am with you when you talk about people looking down on us, on people in the diaspora, ati because unaosha wanyanya, unafanya nini. Hapo shida ni ya kwamba Kenya tunaheshimu title kushinda pesa ambazo unapata. Mm-hmm. That is why Kenya mtu hawezi sema mimi ni mtu wa kutupa uchafu ama takataka, kuzoa taka. Lakini unataka kusema mimi ni supervisor. But wewe labda ni housemaid. But even a housemaid earns money.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So the thing about America, Americans respect, it's the dollar they're respecting, not the job that you're doing. That's why somebody can say, oh, I'm a barman, I'm a waiter. And it's a good thing. Si kitu mbaya. If you come to Hollywood, all the waiters are pretty, beautiful, all of them. It shouldn't be a last resort for everything. And that one comes with the economy. It does not come with people. It comes with the economy. The day we start paying teachers more than politicians, then we shall respect teachers.
Mm-hmm.
The day we start paying garbage men better, right now in Kenya, we have a bill to pay watchmen 30,000 shillings.
Yes.
Imeleta shida. Makampani zimeenda huko kwa koti zinataka kuleta shida. But we must put dignity in some of these things. I had a school for creative arts in Kenya, and it was hard to sell to parents. Do you know why? Because a parent has never seen a successful DJ. So mzazi anaambia mtoto hakuna kitu kama hiyo, hautafanya hiyo kitu, unaenda waste your time. I remember in my tribe, we used to say that guy is jagita, like ni kitu mbaya, like it's kitu ya madharau.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that is the issue which comes up with the attitude, which is over there. But let me finish with the issue of leadership and elections. I think for my posting, everybody who goes to opposition, when I came to America, I was very scared. I was saying, nitaambia hawa watu nini? But I said, you know what? Let me just be me. And I came here, I've not done things by the rule book. I said, let me just try and change the face of the consulate. And I said, if I change the face of the consulate, I will at least be able to sit with people on a podcast and they will not be attacking me. They'll actually be listening. Because in their minds, already they're like, Apana, we've heard good things about you, so you must be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the problem that we have with the civil service in many African countries, not only Kenya, is because of the colonial mentality. The colonial mentality is that civil servants were not taught to serve. They were taught to rule over.
Mm-hmm.
Civil servants were actually walikuwa maboy wa makaburu. So civil servant alikuwa ni kibaraka wa mkoloni.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you hear about the home guards are some of the ones who did the most torturing and all those kind of things. So we have a new face of the civil service. It is people who are coming in. Yes, we face great challenges because when you walk in, you're told one thing. Sasa unajaribu nini? Umetupata hapa na utatuacha?
Hapa.
Ni ukweli nimewacha wengine tayari ambao nilipata na waliniambia hivyo. But for me, it is about legacy, and a luta continua. It doesn't stop here. What do we do? Our action point. I love this kind of platform. I don't know if you guys are in the other group. I don't know if you guys are in commission where I make so much noise that I told guys, let us do a meeting like this where we discuss issues, where we demystify propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would love to hear storytelling people are saying about the affordable housing, about health and everything. And then I can tell you the truths that are happening in that country. You know, I mean, why would government owns all land? So government says, this land is mine. I'm going to give you, like somebody wants to bring an issue about other people. Yet we know very well that when you join parliament, you get a mortgage. So where we uchapata nyumba, but you don't want anybody else to get the house. A health. The health system cannot be that warped. You know, corruption. We need to have, and we need to decide at some point, and this is just my perspective, by the way. I'm a radical.
Leo mekasirika, sawa sawa, endelea tu.
Kenya, give him
toa yote.
And this is my perspective about something like corruption. There are age-old sins which were done in our country, some of the perpetrators got scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 30, 40 years ago. So we want to run after the guy who's done something today, but the guy who did something 40 years ago has gone scot-free. Either we decide we have drawn the line from today onwards. Kama ulifanya makosa kuanzia jana kuendelea, we umeponea. But kama umeanza leo kwenda, if we catch you, this is what we shall do. Because everything is intertwined. You catch somebody here stealing maize, but you stole a seed and you sold to another guy who sold to this guy of maize. So how do we cut the snake's head and not just keep on chopping the tail? We must have hard conversations and decide, listen, let's call a loss a loss. Sometimes pain is just part of learning. I think that's good enough. I can leave it there. It's midnight, guys, in LA.
All right. Thank you so much. So, guys, Keja, Bonamoda, I'll start with you. I'm giving each one of you 30 seconds to give your closing remarks and then to maliza the show.
No, mimi mchango wangu ni wa haraka na ni maswali mawili ya dhati. Kwake Big Ted, najua anaondoka, lakini swali langu ni nyeti na ni swali rahisi. Na ndalianza hivi. Ndalianza hivi. Ezra Chiloba ana kesi kwenye idara ya mawasiliano, Communications Authority of Kenya. Amepandishwa cheo na kupewa kiti cha Big Ted. Ezra Chiloba alikuwa kwenye IEBC na kuna fununu pengine au hisia kwamba pengine alikuwa anafanya udukuzi kusaidia serikali. Paul Kurgat aliyekuwa IEBC ameenda Urusi. Amebarikiwa kupewa kiti kwenda Urusi. Consolata Maina amepewa ubalozi. Pia alikuwa IEBC. Mary Mwachana amepewa ubalozi kwenda Pakistan. Hawa wote ni walikuwa makamishna kwenye IEBC. Kwa hivyo hisia yangu ni hii, ni kama ni kubadilishana vibaraka au usaidizi. Unasaidia serikali kwa njia fulani au rais fulani kwenye idara ya IEBC, alafu baadaye unapewa cheo. Ndugu Arama. Sasa swali langu kwake Big Ted ni wewe ulipataje ubalozi wako kule LA? Mimi nikiwa kijana chuo kikuu cha Nairobi ama KU na nataka kuwa balozi Pakistan ama kuja LA. Ndatumia mbinu gani? Wewe jeta kwanza utumia mbinu gani? Ngoja. Alafu la pili, hawa watu wote wa IEBC mbona ni kama wanatunukiwa ubalozi na hawajawahi kufanya kazi ya ubalozi siku nyingine na wanatunukiwa na hii kazi ya ubalozi? Huu ni ungwana?
Yeah, okay. Mwingine endelea.
Keja, wewe ndio next kwa sababu wewe ndio umekuwa ukiongea.
Nimekuwa nikiongea mingi. Professor leo.
Your final remarks, Keja. Sio professor.
Unajua unaweza kupata kuwa Keja na Wajakoya wanajuana kwa vilemba, lakini mimi pia ningependa kutoa mchango wangu, lakini
uliza maswali basi.
Langu si swali, ila tu ni mchango. For me, first of all, I wanted to correct Big Ted that Kenyans are patriotic. We are here right now, it's 3 a.m. discussing about our country. So that in itself is patriotism. It's just that we don't have patriotism of common purpose, you know? The way we have been wanting to express ourselves in a way that some of us are willing to positively contribute to our country, yet we don't have that avenue. It is important that you are here today, Big Ted, that we can articulate issues here And you, as the mouthpiece and the ears of the administration, you can amplify this if you so wish. But more often, people don't. And that is the tragedy that we usually have with our leaders. The second thing is that Kenya needs to review her policies periodically. And whenever there is an issue, they should review the policies. Policies are not static. There's something, in fact, in Canada, if you review and critique a policy and provide a solution where there's a loophole, the government rewards you. Kenya is known to have good partnership with Canada in terms of policy making. I don't know why we still have bad policies. Like I think Professor Monda said, ukipata askari, in fact nilipata askari aliniambia, nilimeka U-turn pale Embakasi and akaniambia,
kuna mkono zime
akaniambia,
Keja, just give him time please.
Akaniambia nimemake a wrong U-turn, and when I asked him to prove that I made a wrong U-turn, akaniambia si lazima proof kwa sababu wanatoa all the road signs because they are not necessary. That is a civil servant who is telling you. And when I felt that I'm getting offended, he punished me by, keeping me waiting, and I had to comply to give him what he wanted. So that is some of the challenges. The other thing is what you said, Big Ted, I support it. Perhaps we need to have this, and I think it's Keja who was talking about company. Perhaps we need to come up with a huge organization, investment organization, that we can raise and put money together so that our country can harness the fact that we can raise certain amount so that we can have something like public-private partnership, where we can be given these jobs and we can, instead of the government going to borrow out there, we can invest from our savings at a good rate instead of depending on to borrow from other countries. The other thing is, I also wanted to remind Doro that the side chicks are the reason why there's vibrancy in our economy in Kenya. So they are very important and integral part of our Kenyan economy. There is also this issue of hate in our country. People in diaspora. This is because of jealousy, envy, that people think that yani hao watu wakiwa na shida wanatuambia tunawapatia mchango, but all of a sudden they think tuko na maringo. Okay? Watu, I was listening to something today and in interest. Akasema ukienda nyumbani they expect uwapatie zawadi. Wakiwa na shida they expect you to send money. None of them has ever given you a gift, but they expect a gift from you. But yet they tell you unaosha, wamama. And I wonder, why do we hate wamama? And yet these are our mothers who gave birth to us. When we use an example of women, we objectify a woman as from a negative connotation. I think that is very wrong. And personally, sijai osha mama, ama sijai fanya hiyo kazi. Why am I being stereotyped by a retrogressive mind? And lastly, the reason there is politics. Politicians are the most hypocritical people that I've ever seen. They use selective application of legislation, oversight, and whenever it fits them. And that's why you find someone goes to become a governor, and then there's a constitutional loophole where the same person will come back as a senator after 2 terms, and comes back as a senator or a member of parliament. And he comes back to these legislative assemblies, not with the best interest of the people at heart, but to protect that which that he stole while he was in a certain position.
Yeah.
Why are we not having these reforms that are critical, and yet we want to reinvent a wheel of some electoral reforms, something that happens after 5 years, but something that affects us every day, we are not working towards it. So our priorities are upside down. And lastly, I wanted to say that the chapter 6 of leadership and integrity is selectively applied by our leaders. and even by ourselves. And we cannot blame these leaders. We, as the people as well, the Constitution says power is vested in the people, and the people can exercise it directly or indirectly through representatives. What have we done as a people? When we are going to the streets, wearing our friars in our heads, what are we asking? Are we asking the government to do the right thing, the right questions, or we are just going as a show off of the person that we don't like? People like Ezra Chiloba, as Professor said, they are not supposed, they are subject to certain cases and therefore should not, are not fit, and their integrity is in question. They are not fit to hold public office because there is already a question against their integrity. Why are we rewarding these people? And we are not rewarding people who are wanting to transform and give back to our country. Has this government called us back and say, we would like volunteers in these areas, and if you wish or you think you have certain skills that you can pump into our government or to bring reforms, come back and give. I'm sure Professor Monda will be the first person to go back. And lastly, when this is to Doro, when Dr. Ruto, Dr. Ruto's government has been encouraging us, or the people of the citizens of the Republic of Kenya, to go outside the country in terms of jobs, get jobs, and et cetera, et cetera. We as Kenyans, or the opposition, have been at the forefront fighting his administration for encouraging people to go out there so that they can remit. If you believe that the remittance has a significant impact in our economy, why do we keep fighting this government if it's encouraging our people to go out there? Thank you.
All right, Bob.
What?
Bob, you are muted.
Okay, good. First and foremost, I want to say that the appointment of Chiloba to LA is not to serve the interest of the diasporans. I presume there's something to do with the Silicon Valley and whatever dealings that are to happen following the recent visits by the president. If I may be wrong or right, I don't know. Time will tell. And I think Big Ted did a good job by trying to reach out to people. But how I wish he had come earlier, even to this platform. We invited him so many times, and I don't know why you guys are not even trying to tell him. You know, sometimes it's good to tell him, like, man, dude, brother, tulikukaribisha mara nyingi.
Nani aliniambia nikuje hapa?
Big Ted, I called you, Big Ted. Keja. Big Ted.
Don't bring Keja here.
Faith Muna personally called you. Faith Muna called you. We called you.
Yeah.
We requested you to be here. I told Arama we've just called Big Ted. Unless Keja alikwambia usikuje.
I'm in the same group on Diaspora. Nobody has ever written there that they want me in a show.
Okay. No, tunasema tu.
Hold on. You have to keep it here.
Group gani hiyo hata sisi
He has never said no. Even in his personal...
Keja, wacha Bob amalize.
You need to go. Keja is not addressing you.
All right.
When I want you, I'll call you Keja. So, how we wish tungekuja mapema, but it's good kwa sababu you are now at a point of advantage to help us, because like I said earlier, mara nyingi tumekuwa have discussions, but tukiongea tunatumalizia hapo, hatakuwa tunasaidia kubadilisha chochote. I think it's high point to now start putting our things down on paper and presenting them, na tuone kama inaweza saidia kuja kubadilisha policy. And how I pray and I wish that Mungu bado anaweza shuka chini, Miktela angebaki miaka angepewa 5 tena. Kwa sababu
mtoa kwa amemtoa.
Keja, nyamaza bana Keja.
Keja, ngoja tu.
Keja mute please.
Keja ongea Keja.
Hivi tunapigananga na yeye. Ni mtoa kwa amemtoa.
Mute bro, please.
So how I wish tungekuwa na another time ya kuongea mimi ongeongezea big tell another time kwa sababu unaona interaction yake na wananchi interaction yake na wananchi iko so cordial ako he represents what was supposed and what was meant to be done by a consulate and an ambassador. There is no distance. He has bridged the gap between consulate na mwananchi. At least hizi kuna mtu mnaweza discuss, mnaweza kuwa na discussions mwambiane iko hivi na hivi na hivi. So tunaomba going forward you'll be a good part of the system that will now start putting down our public participation and our petitions to government of what needs to be done and what needs to be changed so that tuweze kuona benefits ya office ya ambassador kwa diaspora, not just US but of course it affect the whole of the diasporans across the world. I'm really praying that it'll happen in our lifetime.
No time.
The last thing that I really want to talk, na sijui kama watu wamekuwa kiangalia, there's something that is going on with the younger generation to 18, 19, 20. Na kama ulikuwa keen juzi venye huyu jamaa anaitwa Chila alikufa na unaona venye vijana wadogo wanakimbia na kufanya celebration fulani about it, inakwambia as a nation and as parents it's high time tukae chini na tuanze kuangalia watoto wetu kwa karibu na tuanze kuongelesha kwa sababu they are picking the wrong role models. Sisi it's like tumefungua gap kubwa between sisi na watoto wetu. So I think we have a generation that can either revolt to save itself or can revolt to destroy itself. So I think it's something that we need to start discussing and talking about. Family is so important, and we as parents, we need to start bringing our children together, talking to them, introducing them to faith, let them understand what faith is, let them understand what life is, and let them understand who we are and where we came from. And I want to applaud Doro. Doro amesema watoto wake kwanza ni wa Kenya, alafu atoka wa Kisii. So tujaribu tuone kwa sababu I saw that and I kind of got scared about it. I don't know if other parents were scared with na hiyo maneno, but personally kama Bob nadhani ni kitu ninafaa kwanza kuangalia na tuanze kuongeleshana kama wazazi tukiwa diaspora venye tutasaidia kujenga familia zetu na kujenga watoto wetu ili wakuwe watu wa maana pale mbele. Kwa haya machache asanteni sana mzee.
Thank you. My phone is about to die, so I need to do this and my wife won't agree. I go and charge the phone nirudi tena hapa kwenu. So quickly, number one, apologies. Bob, if I was ever invited, if any, I'm on the Diaspora Tackle group. I always just see guys saying, hey, are we doing a program? Are we doing a program? But I've never been quite appreciated. In fact, today, I was coming to join a Zoom meeting from Kenya. So I came and I found the group and I found a link. I said, let me just jump in and have the conversation. So I apologize for that, if anything. Number two, I'm not able to answer any question on the appointments because I'm here with you. I'm here in LA. So I don't know what criteria was used, but as I told you guys before, I think life has a lot of lessons, and one of them is that life is like a game of draft. Saa zingine Bob, lazima upeane moja ndo ukule tatu. Lakini pia unajua me am a man of faith and I believe that hakuna kitu ya God inatoka inarudi bila kufanya job yake. Kama kazi yangu hapa hivi ilikuwa imeisha hiyo 2 years, then ni sawa. I will not ngangania something, but I will just move into the next level that God wants me to be in. And one of them, I've always wanted to set up a show like this. Actually, I'd already done a proposal called The Perspective, where I'll bring people from government to talk and articulate government issues so that they're in a space where they feel safe, but at the same time, it's a controlled space. You serve at the behest of the appointing authority, so you have no role or right over anything. Alafu unajua isi biashara ya mama yangu na pia madhangu anaweza niambia usikuje job kesho. So I can only stand in for whatever it is that I have. What I did is, that was my style. Me, I'm a very outgoing person. I'm in more than 200 WhatsApp groups in America. And of them, I've set up about 10 or 20 WhatsApp groups of different interests. people and persuasions. So I love going out there to meet people and to be able to talk about stuff, especially things that I am very, very heavily convinced about. I like to make sure that the public knows. Mimi sijaika kwa meeting tunasema vile tutanyima watu passport. Ati leo tusipatie watu passport. Mtu akikuja hapa akae 4 hours. The first time when I came to the consulate, niliweka meza kwa reception, meza yangu na kiti. Nikasema ndaka hapa nione nani anakuja hapa anafukuzwa. Okay? Na nikapata zingine, some issues are HR, ni attitude. But some issues ni HR.
Keja,
what's wrong with Keja, man?
No, he's amepiga kitu.
Chairman, you know you can use the administrative tools like
Keja amekunywa chai. Keja
umevuta nini
lakini
haya sawa.
That's my big brother, man.
Alafu Professor David, if I can get a copy of that research which was done. I've heard about it twice, but I have never seen it. I would like for that to happen. Number 4, I would like to bring up an issue. I raised up the issue of us not being able to know who's coming in, and Messi was very hard telling me that people walking through JKIA and we are meant to do that. Remember, we have a law in Kenya, and it's a part of the ICT bill. It's a Privacy Act, which basically we cannot be able to transplant your information from one side and take it to the other side. The reason why we are telling guys to come and redo their biometrics, and Prof asked about that, is so that we are able to create a clean database. Right now, if you come and you say, my name is Thomas Kwaka Omolo, but in Kenya, I used to be called, my birth certificate says Thomas Kwaka O. The passport won't accept. It won't accept to process, because many of the countries that we're dealing with, like America, Israel, Egypt, Europe, have told us, you know what, your system is not straight, because very soon all of us are going to one passport system in the world, which will mean everybody will share their data, and we must have our things in line. Let me say this. I am also asking God, the reason which he brought me to America and connected me to the community cannot just end. So in the next few weeks, few months, I will know what I'm transiting to. I know some of the things I'm meant to be doing right now. And I believe that we shall be able to be in a place whereby we can inform diaspora of policy and the things that we need to change. But one of the things, Mise, Kenyans are not patriotic. Wasomali hawajali. Wasomali mtu wao walikuja number last kwa race. They cheered the person. They don't care. Nigerians were brought together because the world hated them and the world stereotyped them. Ethiopians came here because most of them were refugees. Waliletwa hapa hivi ile woye. South Sudanese, the same thing. Kenyans mmejileta hapa nyinyi. So wewe ni nguvu yako imekuleta, si nchi yako haina shida. But these guys know that it is either that or nothing else. But in Kenya, najua, I'll go back home. So I don't care. Otherwise, if we were that democratic or patriotic, even shows like this one should have 10,000 people on it, should have 50,000 people on it. Let me be honest with you. There is no one particular channel in America run by Kenyans which is popular. Don't be lied to by anyone. Everybody has 200, 10 people, 3 people, 7 people, 12 people. But where is our collective effort? How do Somalis communicate? Hawana hizi vitu. How do they communicate? You know, they come together. I know in Seattle and in Minnesota, they have now built a community center. In Seattle, they were given by the state because 2 tribes determine the election in Washington state, Ethiopians and Somalis. Mm-hmm. While Kenyans have been there for all these years, but where are we? We are not in politics. We are not standing for any position. We don't want anything, but we are loud. Alafu, our loudness is only for a moment. We just get Wakenya to decide, alafu propaganda. Wakenya, Jesus Christ. I don't understand how we are in a developed country and we are very advanced and everything, but we still post lies. You remember 4 or 5 months ago, there was a story about 666, the card. And guys were saying that Ruto has given the card to devil worshippers. A pastor posted it. And I asked the pastor, excuse me, sir, you're a man who people respect and people follow. You've posted something which has been made by AI. Can you Google that TV station and tell me which station that is? Oh, the guy said, saying, no, in fact, it's not about this. I told him, no. I must hold you to the things that you place. So that if you place something, then we take you on in that particular direction. Bwana Professor, if wishes were horses, I am 100% sure that the guys in my constituency will have said, let him serve for 10 or 20 or 30 years. But because they are not the best I can do, I will continue to serve the diaspora from outside. I don't want any post, by the way. I'm not doing it for anything. I'm just doing it because I am interested in seeing people come together and a legacy being built around something. Point of no interest. One of the reasons why our products cannot do well here, for example, Tusker want to come to the American market, but they were going to come here with a strategy from Kenya. Now, you know very well, and Keja is here as an example.
That's a man the story.
Yeah, Kenyans do not drink beer. Kenyans drink whiskey and anything which is brown. So even if they bring the product to America, there's no day me and Keja will go and put 20 beers on a table. We'll look cheap, but we can put a bottle of Hennessy and we'll feel that we have reached. So the aspect here is,
Hey, big brother, maybe you might later your story.
If we are really patriotic, then we shall put our money where our mouth is. How come Samido came here, the most people he had was 200. Nameless was here, 300. Sauti Sol was here, was our biggest show ever. And I don't even think we shall hit those numbers again. If we are really patriotic, how come we're not saying, do you know how Burna Boy has become big? Bob, Burna Boy has become big because of the money from the diaspora. They have used their gray money and their real money, wamechanganyisha, and that's why they have built wakina Burna Boy. But I know rich guys in America. Unaambule jamaa ule ni mdosi. But hautaimwona siku moja amesema nimetoa hii $2 million, let 4 artists come from Kenya or 5 artists or 20 artists.
No,
but guys,
let me explain.
But I rest my case. My phone is about to die. If it goes off, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
Big Ted.
Yes.
I want to thank you for.
I think it's my turn.
Okay,
guys.
Just 5 seconds. 5 seconds. 5
Okay.
seconds, Chairman. 5 seconds, Chairman.
Okay.
5 seconds, Chairman. I just want to thank Big Ted. He might not remember.
Yes, we are going to be
sometimes
Big Ted.
Sometimes last year around April, May, hapo mahali hapo nilikupigia simu kutafuta and nashukuru sana, ulinitoa kwa shimo and uliokoa maisha, hautakumbuka. Nilikuwa napitia vitu nyingi sana. Joel anajua, tumeongea na Joel, but Big Ted, wewe na Gerard Bitok mlifanya kazi kubwa na nashukuru sana. Hautakumbuka Keja, hautakumbuka Big Ted. By then nilikuwa Phoenix nikikupigia simu.
Yeah.
Thank you so much and God bless you, my brother.
Thank
you very much.
I think it's my turn.
All right. Big Ted, before Doro speaks, I expect you to be here next week. So
just
talk about
the
policy 2024.
Alafu David, Professor nitumia hiyo link ya research tafadhali nisome. I love numbers.
Doro, go ahead.
For me, I'll use, I really appreciate all your contributions and appreciate having Big Ted here with us today. But I just want to use this to say something because mulileta watoto hapa ndani kidogo. I'm a mother of boys and my boys are grown now. They are grown men.
Are you
These kids, yes, I'm everything, Keja. Thank you. So I'm a mother and a grandmother. I know I look hot, but I'm a grandmother too. But I've raised my children here in America. They were born here. Pali tumepotea, na mimi nitatumia hii from experience. Pali watu wa Kenya wamepotea, and pole our Kenyanness is going to dwindle and disappear, is people are not teaching our kids our culture. Watu waonyeshi watoto wametoka wapi na wanaelekea wapi. So I intentionally made it my business to teach my kids my language, Kisii. Nilisahau Kiswahili, they are struggling with it right now, but that's what we used to talk about them. So my kids have grown, and I use them as an example. They have grown knowing where they're from. When someone asks them, where are you from? The first thing they say, they're from Kenya. They're grown men right now. They're from Kenya, and then they also know, what language do you speak? English and Ekebusi, you know? When we were in Kenya the other day for my grandmother's funeral a couple of weeks ago, people were trying to talk to them in Swahili. And I told them, no, you speak to them in Kisii, they'll understand. Don't do it. So people were not understanding the bridge, but I'm encouraging people to save our country, our culture, and everything. Funzeni watoto wenu. Nalea watoto wenu. Know your children are your biggest asset. Kwa sababu tumefika hapa America, a lot of parents watoto wameingia kwa systems, wako majelani, wameingia drugs, because parents come and go overtime. Wanaenda wanafanya overtime, wanawacha watoto na video games kwa nyumba. Double. Iyo double, let me tell you, I've seen families go down. When my kids were in the formative stages, I used to sit on those football bleachers with those kids. I used to pick and drop them in school, you know. I was with them and I'm telling you, it paid. Those kids were never my friends when they were growing up. Sikuwa na friendship business now. I was a rough, kissy mother with them. But right now, they're formidable grown men, and they're my friends now. We can do friendship. But then akukwa na hiyo ujinga, and the kids came out right. And they tell me, Mom, you were crazy. You were low-key crazy, but thank you. So kumbukeni hiyo. Kama uko na mtoto mdogo mwenye ako below 18, put your time on that child. And a lot of Kenyans are missing this. And I hope one day I'll have a platform to teach them and remind them that their kids are number one. So I just wanted to jump onto that since someone brought it up. And asanteni sana, and that's my parting shot for tonight.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate Leo tumeenda kabisa, and really appreciate this conversation today. I hope to see you guys next week. We need to talk about the Diaspora Policy 2024 and among other issues. We need to start focusing our energy and getting things, actionable items on the table. And hopefully with our discussion with other people, we'll get other people also participate, especially from the government side, to come and be on this platform. When that happens, I will let you guys know. Otherwise, asanteni sana na washukuru sana for being here today. Thank you for giving your time. And hopefully your patriotic meter has gone up a little bit. And we'll continue going up higher next week. Asante sana. The Diaspora Taco edition ends now. See you next week. Bye-bye.